What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So this is where we left off in the last video, working on this 5610 loader here. It's a Bush Hog 2400 QT loader, and we're working on building this skid steer quick attach. This was an old attachment here, universal attachment that had U-bolts that held on a hay spear, and I've repurposed these plates. You've seen that in the previous video. I've got this piece of pipe here welded in it to make these work in unison. I'm still waiting on my metal to come in. I ordered a specific size of square tubing here to go here to adapt to our skid steer quick attach. These little strips right here will be cut off as soon as I get a new torch hose, because I managed to cut that one in two. Anyway, we got our stop blocks welded on the bottom down here, as you see, so that this keeps this from pivoting over center, because like it was, I don't know if you can tell or not, these rods look like they have a slight bow in them to me. This thing will go all the way down without those stop blocks and go over center and bend right here. And it didn't have that on there before, but it did from the factory, because these pieces right here are factory. And there was nothing on this because this was a universal deal here. And so I've got these welded on here, so when you turn it down, this will catch here. It'll prevent that from going over center and bending your cylinders here. So as I say, got the pipe welded in, and we're just waiting on a little more metal to come in, and that way we can get this thing and cut this off, waiting on a new torch hose. I guess I could probably fix that one if I needed to. All right, guys, so no more than I use a torch. I think this is going to work. I went to town, I got some hose menders there and pushed in there, and I think that's going to be just fine. That lasts quite a long time. I'm working on the joystick valve here. They did not have what I wanted. I wanted a piece of 3/8 zinc rod, and I was going to thread the ends of it. They didn't have any 3/8 rod of any kind, but they had this 1/2 inch tubing right here that's hollow, and so I figured I could slip that over there and then weld a 3/8 bolt in the end of it for my knob to go on. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I think that's going to work out just fine. I've got it extended up here where I want it, where I can reach it right here. Put the bolt in the knob. I'm sitting all the way back in the seat. That'll be about what you want right there. And I put just a little bit of bend right here. I got to weld that to it. I just slipped this over the old joystick there, as you see. Extend it out a little bit. Like that to get me where I want to be. Make up for my measurement mess up there that I did when I was going to bring that valve block back. But that's not a big deal. It actually gives you more leverage on the valve. That valve's a little bit stiff compared to the one on my Mahindra. Even with this longer handle, it's a little stiff still. So there's no chance of it, you know, the extra length or weight causing an issue that I see. So that's what we're going with. All right, so I went ahead and cut those little strips off that was holding this together originally before I put this pipe in here. And so that's all done. I'll have to clean it off with a flap disc, and that'll pretty well be ready to weld out whenever I get my other plate and square tubing that I got coming in order to put our quick attach on here. I'm also done with the joystick up here, except for the knob that I got coming. You see how I extended that out right there. I can set in the seat now and comfortably reach it with the knob on it. It kind of fits right where your hand's at right there, like you would want that. And that's a 3/8 bolt welded inside of that, and then on the bottom I say just slipped it over and welded it down there. We're good to go on that now. So I just got some paint on here, so I'll let that dry and then I'll let the loader down, and I'm gonna call it a night and wait on some more parts. All right, guys, so we have got our package of metal in from Metals Depot, and we've got our joystick knob that I ordered off of eBay. So let's see if this joystick knob is going to fit, and then we'll check out the package of metal. So this knob is supposed to be a 3/8 thread, and I've made this joystick handle with a 3/8 bolt, so this should screw right on. And I estimated on the depth right there because I wasn't sure how deep the threads needed to be, but that seemed to come out pretty close to right. It could have been about one thread shorter, looks like. I don't want to crank down on it too much because I'll bust the knob most likely. But I think that's going to work right there very, very well. I'm sitting all the way back in the seat right here, as you see. And yeah, so I think that's going to work pretty good. So let's see how our metal come out. Okay, so I ordered this metal here from Metals Depot, and this is the slowest, most expensive way that you can buy metal, I believe. But if you only need a small quantity and you want it cut with a bandsaw, and it's a specialty metal, a different size that your local metal supplier doesn't have, then this method works. Also, if you don't have time to go chasing around different places to try to find a specific size piece of something that you need when you only need a small quantity of it, this also works. And so that's how I come about with this here. And this metal right here was $180 with shipping included. The shipping on that was about 40 bucks of it. So it's kind of pricey. This is 50 pounds of metal right here. And it is 2 pieces of 3.5 inch square tubing and 2 pieces of 1/2 inch by 5 flat bar. And it's all bandsaw cut, and they will cut it down to however many inches you need, whereas the local metal yard sells it by the foot. In other words, if you need, 15 or 16 inches, you got to buy 2 foot. But you're actually paying for it with this because you're paying more. But as I say, if you need it already cut, ready to go, this may be an option for you. I'm not associated with them, obviously. As I say, this is a pretty slow to go about getting your metal, and it's pretty expensive. All right, so we got our metal there for a quick attach, and the purpose of that is going to weld on that piece over there that I've got built, and then it's going to weld to these pieces quick attach, skid steer quick attach that I purchased. So we're building our own. Anyway, I've got to do some measuring over here. I think I already have an idea what it needs to be, but I'm going to check my Mahindra just to see. And what I want to know is how far below grade, sitting flat with a bucket on the ground, the loader should be below when the tractor's here. In other words, how much lower the loader will go. And I'm thinking roughly about 3.5 inches or so. But I'm going to check this one and measure it, and then I'm going to do the same measurement or very similar measurement on the other one over there when I build it, because you want your bucket to go below level grade, 3 to 5 inches, in order for you to be able to dig with it and cut down below. If it just goes down level, well, obviously if you get on some ground that slopes down, your bucket's not going to touch the ground and you're not going to be able to dig. So anyway, that's what we're doing. And I'm going to measure, or I'm going to use this bucket here that I have and disconnect it from this tractor, and I'm going to use this bucket as a jig to line up those skid steer quick attach plates over there. I'm going to put them in here and lock them in place. That way this gives me a flat square surface to build off of, and then I'll pull the other tractor up here and I'll get my height right on the loader, so that the height to be right on everything, and then I'll get some pieces tacked into place and whatnot. All right guys, so this is what I had in mind here. I drove this tractor up on these 4x6 blocks, which is 3.5 inches off the ground. The back is still down, so it's probably actually about 4 inches out here if you figure the tractor's pointed up at an angle, because it's on blocks here. But that's what I want to see, and as you see, the bucket will still sit on the ground right there just barely. It's all the way down. But you want that bucket to go down further than your front wheels by roughly about, that much, what I was saying, 3 to 5 inches. So I wanted to double check this to make sure that there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. But so that tells me about what I need to know, and I should be able to disconnect this bucket, back this tractor out, put the other tractor up here, drive it on the blocks here and kind of use this same setup to get a reference point for my other one. And then of course I will have to check level side to side because this concrete's not perfectly straight, and the loaders are not perfectly straight. These loaders get bent from digging stuff from side to side, and they'll be off a little bit. So we still got to do some measuring, but this will get us set up in the right direction. All right, so I did a little measuring and stuff here, and I figured out that a 4x6 on this is going to be a little bit too tall. So I'm using these two 2x10s, and I think they may still be just a touch too tall. This loader here is a smaller loader, shorter loader with less reach. So, you know, the dimensions may not apply apples to apples, but the same concept is the same. The loader bucket has to go lower than the front tires. So anyway, I'll check that again in a minute, but I've got me some notches right here on this, and I cut that just a little bit short right there, but I can fill that up. I can slide this up just a touch right here, and I can fill that in with no problem. I got a little carried away with the bandsaw there, but anyway, that'll weld in there, and then there'll be a metal plate across here to cap that. I got to get this straight and square and do the same thing to the other side. This will weld in here. I've got my quick attach plates here locked in to this bucket. You want to leave about a 1/2 inch gap right there down the side of that on each side, and that looks like it's got a little bit twisted. Anyway, I'll double check that, but that way you can get to your implements, and all of these are not exactly the same. You know, some of them may be an 1/8 inch wider or narrower than others, so you want to have a little gap here so that you can be able to hook them up. But anyway, this is going to weld right there, like that right there, and then that piece of 1/2 inch plate that I got over there goes on the other part right here that you can't see because of the light, and then the 1/2 inch plate will weld to this. So I got to get everything lined up, squared up and everything. We're going to start getting this stuff tacked into place, and then after I get this on there, I'm going to go ahead and weld my 1/2 inch plate up here, and then we can set the height of it and get that tacked. All right guys, I've got my 1/2 inch plate welded on here. I'm gonna let that cool off, clean them welds up with a flat disc right there, and I've got these down here tacked, and I can't really get in there to get a good weld on that, so I'm going to wait until I get these two pieces tied together, and then release this from the bucket, and then I can weld that, and then I will take this off right here so that I can get in behind here and weld as well. And I'll have to cut some plates right here to go cover those holes up. So that's what I'm waiting on now. Let that cool off, and I'll hit it with a flat disc, and we'll see if we can get this joined to this lined up squarely and everything, and the right height, the right depth. I dropped these plates down below as you see here, because it looked like they needed to be a little bit lower than they did tall, and so I think that's going to work okay. All right guys, so I've got this thing sitting up here about where I think it needs to go. It is not 100% straight. This loader is tweaked a little bit. I don't know if it was welded together crooked from the factory. I noticed this a while back when I was working on it. If you look at this factory pipe right here and look at the factory bracket, you can see this side over here is a little lower, and according to tape measure, it's a little lower to the concrete, you know, 1/2 inch or so. So either this loader is tweaked, or it was welded crooked, or the weld warped it at the factory. I don't know, but I'm doing the best I can with it, get everything square and lined up the best I can. I got just a little bit of gap right here, just, I don't know, maybe a 1/16, and the other side's got maybe a 32nd or so on the bottom. But that's going to weld up nicely. I've got it centered left to right where it needs to be, and I think I've got the height about where I want it. I let a little bit of air out of the tire over here to get this bucket a little more true, I suppose, and hopefully it's going to work out all right. I got it where it's sitting flat on the concrete right there. This bucket here is a little bowed. I mean, we're dealing with a bunch of used stuff that's tweaked and everything else. So I've got it lined up the best that I can get it, so I think we're ready to put some tacks on it. All right, guys, so I lowered the air pressure in the tires just a little bit to get this thing to lower down about a ½ inch lower. And I'm gonna cap this right here with a 3/8 plate. And then I have enough room right here to put me a little well bead there. And that should work out good. I just got a few tacks on it now. I'm gonna disconnect it here and get it in a better position so I can go ahead and weld that out. But that's what it's gonna look like right there. And you can see the buckets on the ground where the tire's at right there. I think that's gonna work out for what we need. All right, so I've pretty well got everything welded out, except for I gotta make a cap to cover this. But I'm working on this right here. They send the incorrect grease zerks. I've already replaced these here. The ones they send are smaller than this, and a standard grease gun won't fit. I had these over there in stock. The threads were different. I run a tap in here, tapped it, put the correct grease zerk in there for my grease gun. They got the wrong washer on the bottom of here. I just put this on there. They put a standard style washer on here, which the purpose of this spring is to tighten this handle down so that it has a little bit of pressure on it, so that when you release it, the handle don't just fall down. And with this washer here on there, there's no way to do that because it can't get tight because the washer bottoms out right there. So we need a washer right there like that with a bigger hole in it. Then we'll put that one on top, tighten it down, then that'll snug that up and we can set the tension on this. So here's the tiny little grease zerks that come with the kit. Those are not what you need. They won't fit anything. So we got this reassembled here, and I still can't get that to tighten down like it should, but I think it's gonna be okay. That one's a little better there. Alright guys, so just about got that done, all except for painting, and I think I'm going to get some 1-inch bolts, or at least I'm going to look at getting some 1-inch bolts, replace these pins. That way I can snug the bolts up a little bit, because these have no reason to come out, and as this pivots, it's just going to wear these holes out, I think, even though I'm not going to use this tractor all that much probably. I think I'm just going to go ahead and replace these pins with 1-inch bolts, and I can snug it down a little bit, put a little tension on them, and that'll keep the bolt from turning in here, and it'll pivot in here instead like it's supposed to. This come out pretty good. Just needs a little paint on it. These cheap quick latches I bought are not the best in the world. They work. I had to do a little work to them. Had to tack weld this washer here to get the tension right so that handle don't fall down. And you kind of got to wiggle it around there to make it slide down. If you look on that one over there, you can see the threads on that bolt that's coming up. That's got to slide down, and it wants to catch and bind, so you kind of got to wiggle it. Not the best working thing in the world. It had a little tab right here I had to grind off so that they would open all the way up and the pins would fully retract. I welded this cap in here on each side like that. That way, if you got an attachment that's got a little bit longer lip here, like I do a set of hay spear, hay forks, that'll give that clearance to come down, because it's a 2-inch lip on it, so that'll give that clearance to come down like that. And it's got right here where I miscut this, it's got a nice little water drain, makes it look like it was meant to be that way. So if I didn't tell you any different, you would think I meant for it to be that way. but it came out really well. So I think that's going to work. I'm going to pull this thing around here in the other bay closer to the air hose, put some air back in these tires here, and I'll get around to painting this thing another day. I was worried about how this thing was going to dig being two-wheel drive, so I decided to come mess up my yard. But this bucket here is too big, really. I knew it was. This is a 7-foot bucket. This tractor probably needs a 6-foot bucket. That was at maximum capacity. I could tell it was going up really slow, and this will pick up about 2,400 pounds. That's what it's rated at, and that's what I tested it at. So that was about 2,400 pound load of dirt, I guess, but it's digging pretty decent. I don't even have any water in the tires yet, but I do have that bush hog hanging on the back. So I think this will do some work. I was a little bit worried about this loader wasn't going to be big enough or strong enough to do anything, but it actually seems decent. I mean, it don't compare to my other tractor. I knew it wasn't, but for what it is, I mean, it's actually pretty decent. All right, guys, that has got this thing wrapped up. I went ahead and put some 1-inch bolts in there, like I said, and got them tight. I'll watch and make sure they don't work loose. If they do, I may have to put some Loctite on the nuts. The bolts that I was able to get are only 6 inches long, and they wasn't long enough to put a washer on, but I run them in there with the Milwaukee impact wrench, and they're pretty snug. So I think that's going to work. I had to do a little work on these levers here and adjusted them and whatnot. Got them to work a little better. They're not as good as a skid steer quality, but they're about like what's on a compact tractor. I mean, they'll work fine for this application. Got a little paint on it. I need to get some more grease zerks. I got some grease zerks for down here, but they're the wrong thread. So I'm gonna have to get some more grease zerks. I went ahead and put some grease on the bolts before I put them in there. But that's all I like, having this finished up right here on the front. So I think it's going to work all right and work better with the bolts in there than the pins. Takes out some of the slop and keeps the bolt from turning in the plate and wearing the plate. It'll pivot in here like it's supposed to where the grease is at. So anyway, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. I guess we're done with the loader and everything. Still got a few more things that I'd like to do to the tractor at some point, but for the most part, we're pretty well done. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.